Hey everyone, hey and welcome back to, yet another episode of Watching the Watchmen. This is a podcast that I always say we do fairly, infrequently. It's kind of an on and off thing between what was once a master and an apprentice in the form of Death, but now, I've been somewhat eclipsed by his giant recaps. But this is very much the Alan Moore of the back catalogue, so to speak, the more obscure part. And for those listening for the first time, me and Deffinition have been reviewing the entirety of Watchmen. We've actually finished that. We actually spoke to John Higgins, the colorist of Watchmen as well, one of the three guys that worked on it. And now, we're going to look at another artistic shade of this thing, that being the movie. And Deff, how's it going, man?
Yeah, really good, Tom. Really, really good. I'm quite excited for this episode. Yeah, I know we do the comic a lot, but fans of my channel, they'll know that I love talking about movies. Yeah. So yeah, really, really happy, Tom.
All right, so as always, just before we dive into the film, as always, you can subscribe to Def's channel as well. If you're listening to this, you want to listen to this on your phone, we're on iTunes, we're on all the sort of different platforms like that. Get in touch with us as well, watchingthewatchmanpod@gmail.com. As I say, this is fairly infrequent, so we don't have like a sort of weekly inbox that we dive into and stuff. We've got some loyal listeners, so obviously we've got none to go through today, but when we do a future episode, we also do Doomsday Clock as well for some reason, which is a sequel which we definitely need to catch up as well. But Def, let's go back to the beginning, because I remember the first time I saw this movie.
Wow.
I saw it when it came out.
Must have been traumatic.
Yeah, it was 2009, like February, March 2009.
Had you read the book before you saw it?
I had.
What?
Yeah.
See, I was the other way around. I saw the movie first.
Yeah.
And then, because I was going to read the book, but then they were like, oh, they're bringing a movie out. And I was like, oh, fuck reading. So yeah, I just watched that first. It was the same year as The Dark Knight as well, I think.
I think it was the year after. Yeah, just the...
Right, okay.
Just the year after. But yeah, it was definitely in that sort of vein, completely in that sort of era. So yeah, I had read it. I think we spoke about this on the show ages ago, but yeah, I had gone on holiday in 2008 and picked it up actually in the States, being aware of it, being a fan of sort of graphic novels. And I remember, I can sort of mentally remember the way I was processing it when I first read it. And obviously it was such a sort of shallow read and I found it quite obscure and beguiling, but obviously, fucking loved it. And it is an absolute masterpiece. But yes, I was aware of it. And then I remember being in the library in sixth form, and there was a copy of Empire magazine, and me and this girl were looking through it, and she had no idea what Watchmen was, but, obviously I'd read Watchmen, so I was hyper looking forward to seeing this. I remember going to the Odeon after school. It was like a dark, Tuesday evening. I think it was quite a packed screening, and, ultimately I definitely, I did enjoy it, and it was a good experience even then. But what were your first impressions?
I remember watching the trailer, and it had the song by the Smashing Pumpkins, it's something like "The end is the beginning is the beginning is the end." It's got a really weird name, but I knew that song because it was on the soundtrack for Batman and Robin, which I owned. Like, on that soundtrack, there's two different versions of the song. The album starts off with "The beginning is the end of the beginning," and the album ends on "The end is the beginning." So, anyway, whatever the name is, but I remember it really strongly being from that album, and then to see DC using it again, I was like, I'm a bit unsure. And I remember seeing Archie pop out the river, and it just had this really dark tone to it that I was just getting accustomed to. Like I said, Dark Knight, that dropped the year before. Batman Begins, I wasn't massively a fan of at the time, and it seemed quite a dark, intriguing film, that like watching this bright blue guy walk around, and it really was intriguing. And obviously I'd been a comic book fan for quite a while at that point, but I was still like, I think, quite a young teenager. So I wasn't as well versed in the medium. So I'd heard of Watchmen before, but I didn't know, and it kind of intrigued me. And it was back then. This was before there was 10 comic book movies a year, so it was getting labelled as quite an event. There's basically, before filming Watchmen, I knew that they deemed like you couldn't film this book So
It's been
I was
tried
quite
many
interested.
times, I think.
Yeah, I was quite interested to see how it would translate to screen. And yeah, we'll not get into my thoughts yet, but yeah, I was quite excited for it.
And as you say, it has sort of a troubled history. I think Terry Gilliam was involved, but obviously, Zack Snyder came to the fore from a great sort of some opening films from him. But let's just jump into the material, because obviously anyone who's listened to the podcast, we've sort of gone through the whole story in depth, our take, and one of the things we've grown to know best are the characters. That's one of the most exciting things I think about adaptations, and still to a certain extent in comic book movies, it's like, how's this character going to look on screen? Thinking like Thanos recently has been like a huge success, but then there's like been a lot more obscure ones, obviously. So yeah, that's what I was looking forward to, again, from that magazine as well. That's what I was seeing, that's what I was encouraged by, and I still think the film in general has aged really well. I think
definitely.
Don't you think? I think there's a few things that I'll get to towards the end that really look bad, but from the characters to the costume design, to the set, I think it's really good.
And another thing is, there's like 3 cuts of this film that exist, and the theatrical cut, I think, is quite disappointing. But a lot of people just tend to go to the director's cut, which it is a lot better. I myself, I watched the ultimate cut, which it is quite hard to keep up for the casual viewer, I imagine. And I recently saw that Watchmen, the theatrical cut, was on Netflix, so I can imagine that's what a lot of people tend to watch. Obviously, when you say, there's a 3-hour version of this film, it's not something that a lot of people are going to be that interested in watching. But yeah, the director's cut is basically, it's got a lot of extended scenes and shots, and the ultimate cut has all of that and Tales from the Black Freighter intertwined into the edit. It's a 3.5-hour film, so that's the version I watched. I didn't watch it all in one go, but I did still really enjoy it, and I do think it has aged really well. There's some absolutely beautiful shots in it, and I think looks-wise, it's probably the best cinematography that Zack Snyder's had in the film. Just like watching the funeral for the comedian, the moment in Vietnam where Dr. Manhattan comes over the horizon. There's a lot of very iconic shots, and that is a credit to the source material as well.
Yeah, it completely is, and the source material is played with, it's extended, obviously. It's not what I would call a direct homage, although there are several sequences that I think, perfectly match that. And again, it is exciting just as well to see the characters, to see how certain plots are handled. Like, I think, for example, the Dr. Manhattan, John Osterman origin sequence is fucking brilliant in this film. I think it's really well done, and I think there is a sort of poetic, Moore-esque languishing on shots, especially the opening, the Bob Dylan opening as well, which, to me, that sequence, so we kind of have the comedian sequence, and that kind of what starts us off, but I love how we open with the yellow, the classic DC logos. Yeah,
it's brilliant. It's a brilliant introduction to the film. I've actually got it on in the background, just as we're talking now,
me too,
and
man, yeah.
It's up to the comedian scene for me.
Right.
And it's just so, it perfectly captures the look of the comic book from the off in such an amazing way. Just the way it opens on the button, and the unforgettable excuse the pun here, but it's got an unforgettable soundtrack.
Yeah.
And this intro, it's really picture perfect, and it also highlights that this movie is going to be arguably one of the most comic book accurate films of all time, just for how on point this opener is. I mean, this is peak Zack Snyder action with the slowdowns and speed ups. He stopped doing them by Man of Steel, and it sort of did become a gimmick. But in this moment, it's just really enjoyable. And just watching the room get smashed up as well, there's impact to it. And there's this destruction, but there's also this sort of ballet to the choreography.
Yeah, it's easy to follow and intriguing.
Yeah, it's really well shot. And it's something that I think Nolan lacked in his films when he did the Batman movies, especially Batman Begins. The the action scenes not very well shot, and I think that's where Zack Snyder excels at, and which is why in Batman v Superman, his warehouse scene with Batman's really well put together, and probably better than all of the scenes in Dark Knight from an action standpoint. But this is just a fantastic opener, and it really just, it seems very down to earth, and then you get into the supernatural feel of it, and you get the nostalgia advert, and comedian just sits back laughing, smoking his cigar, and it's not really the quintessential superhero opener, but it's just, it does set the tone that this isn't your everyday superhero movie, that there's going to be some very realistic aspects to it, and it's got just such good gravitas to it that it does capture your imagination. And I really can't see a critic of the film denying that this is a bad way to open the film.
And, you know, we open with the comedian, our first appearance with the comedian. What do you think of Jeffrey D. Morgan's carnation?
He nails it. And I really didn't know much about the actor till probably about 3 years ago. And I genuinely, up until that point, thought he was an old man. I did believe he was in his 50s, just for how believable that he manages to portray this old guy as. It's just a fantastic performance, and he nails all of the nuances. He's arrogant. He's very cruel, but he's smirking, and you can kind of laugh with him as well. And he's also got the balance of like the broken side of the comedian and the dramatic side, where he realizes that, you know, everything's tragic in a way. And I think he does. He completely nails it.
Yeah, and the money shots as well. The blood on the smile is handled perfectly. You know, with real care. Real fan's eye. It's a glossy take, it's a comic book take, but still very visually stylish, and definitely not too hollow as well. And I mean, I'm not really the biggest fan of like the Marvel franchise, for example, but I think in comparison it's quite bloodless to this. I think this is really alive, and I love, and I think most people point to this as being one of the highlights of the film, are the opening vignettes. I think they're pretty much all brilliant. Like, I've just been watching them now, and the way they play with history, and obviously as a fan, we're appreciating everything. We're fucking nerds. We know that's dollar bill, you know, caught there. You know, we can sort of anticipate where all the shots are. We realise that, you know, watching the Watchmen is somewhat obscured. But, I mean, Def, you can understand, and I've read quite a few reviews of this film this morning, you can understand the inclination of critics to be like, what the fuck's going on? Like, maybe it is kind of hard to follow if you've not got the Bible behind you.
Yeah, it is. I can imagine that. Like, if someone was critical about this film, I wouldn't be like too argumentative with them, just because I can totally see it from their point of view. If you're not a fan of this already, then you probably won't be blown away by the movie, just because of how accurate it is to the source material. A lot of comic book movies these days, they take the idea and then adapt it from there, whereas this is pretty stingently the comic book, basically. Whereas, like, I read Age of Ultron last week, and the book is completely different to the film. Like, the only thing they brought over is the title. Sure. The Dark Knight is completely different to anything that's been in a Batman comic before. Spider-Man Homecoming, I'm just like, pretty much all of the MCU, they adapt minor things and go in their own direction. Whereas this is literally, here is the comic book filmed.
And Alan Moore's name not mentioned in the credits.
Yeah, I think he asked to have his name removed, didn't he? Which is strange. Before he'd even seen it.
But it's more artistically felt by not being there, in a way. Which is very Moorish. But Dave is there, and there are some great shots, as we say. We can't really get to all of them, but I love seeing comedian on the grassy knoll. I love seeing the Russian aggression, Kent State as well. Andy Warhol with Night Owl prints.
Yeah. There's also like a little Batman Easter egg in there with the comic books. We've got major historical events like Dr. Manhattan meeting JFK, and then the comedian assassinating him. And it's just so well done. Really, really nice piece of cinema that you could show anyone, and I think they'd have some appreciation for.
And I mean, obviously, it's difficult to go through it scene by scene, but it is, this opening, I think, is absolutely brilliant. And it continues really with the character introductions. Again, I think Rorschach here by Mr. Haley is outstanding.
Yeah, he's absolutely brilliant. The guy completely nails it. There's some bad characterizations in this film, but this, to me, is the best. He just completely knocks it out of the park. Every scene he's in, he's very believable. And Jackie Earle Haley, like, he's quite a short guy in real life. I watched something with him the other day, and he was dwarfed by all of the other actors in the scene. But yeah, he's sort of a giant on the screen almost. For me, just the interrogation that he has with Malcolm, it's a beautiful character building moment, and I think that is by far the best performance in the film from just that scene alone. He just comes across as like such a hard ass, and then when he's in the film, like throwing boiling hot fat over prisoners, shouting, "I'm not in here with you, you're in here with me." It's just a fantastic performance, and he nails every aspect of it. Yeah,
even in the sort of intimate moments where Moore would characterize him by like Gronk and just various sounds and stuff, just his manner altogether. You're right, Rorschach is so multifaceted with or without the mask. And I love that, even though certain scenes are changed, and we will go through that as we go into the the whole take as well. And it reminded me a little bit in general, so watching this first 15-20 minutes or so, in certain scenes where you get, it's kind of like Lord of the Rings, where from the book there are later, there are lines said by other characters that are given to characters earlier on to sort of fit the plot.
Yeah, and there are slight differences, but unless I don't think if you had the book in front of you, you would care that much or mind that much. Like looking at the badge getting cleaned up off the sidewalk, and Rorschach walks by it, and then you see a pyramid van in the opposite direction. Like that is exactly how the book opens. And seeing that play out, it was just all coming together beautifully for me for just how accurate it was. It's amazingly recreated. And on the extended cut, I don't know if this is in the theatrical one, but on the extended cut, it pulls out after the button zoom in, and you just get an extended view of the entire city with a Gunga Dinah blimp, and it just works so well at establishing that, yes, the Watchman is here on screen. It's here to stay.
Yeah, it's like a sort of knowing wink to the audience, really, just to establish that they appreciate, like, when these director's cuts happen. It is a wonderful thing, and especially with this, it's great to see, and it makes you realize as you go through that so much stuff is unfortunately melded together or skipped over, and it never can be that certain way. And there are lots of minor performances as well that are demanded of the book that I think are very strong. Hollis Mason, for example.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, the guy who does him does a really good job. As just playing like an old guy who's a bit down on his luck, but he's still smiling. And his death scene later in the film, I think, is one of the best moments in the movie. Just watching him sort of imagine that he's going out in a big blaze of glory, and fighting these hoodlums that are actually his previous enemies, and it's just so well done. Really, really is good. And he's actually in the extended cut a lot more. When you have the Black Freighter moments that are intercut into the film, he's often buying there's a bit where he buys the newspaper from the stand. And then we cut down to the guy reading the comic book, and he's fleshed out beautifully here. And his death and his life, it's probably the way that most superheroes would live. They sort of have their big moment in the spotlight and then sort of die down as they get older. And then, but they're really hungry to like have a good death. I know I keep talking about Batman, but like in The Dark Knight Returns, one of the big quotes is like, "This will be a good death." And it sort of talks about how Bruce Wayne, he's an old man, and he really does want to go out in a blaze of glory. And I think Hollis symbolizes that as well. He wants to go out like remembered. He doesn't want to be just dying in his bed one day. And there's a real nice poetry to his death that kind of recaps the greatest and proudest moments of his life. And that I don't think it's in the theatrical cut either. The cuts of like Moloch, I think they just kind of beat him.
Yeah,
I should have really watched the theatrical cut, Tom, shouldn't I, before I start slagging it off and saying this isn't in it.
There's lots of subtle changes. Like I think I said to you before, like there's a huge article that certain moments, certain seconds will have an extra. You know, it's not even just narrative stuff; it's just certain lingering stuff, as you mentioned before. And what did you think of the younger Night Owl, Dan Dryberg?
Yeah, really, really good. I think he nails what he's given, but like Patrick Wilson is a really good actor, but I don't like him and Laurie. I just feel like they're kind of meh, like all of their bits, especially in the Ultimate Cut, which was already long enough. I was thinking like, oh yeah, this is kind of like, even though I'm quite a big fan of this work, it is really dragging. And yeah, it's by far the least intriguing aspect of the story. So whilst I think he does a good job, I don't think he's given much to work with that really lets his acting shine. He's kind of a loser.
I mean, he's let down though by Laurie. I agree. I think Malin Ackerman sucks in this film.
Yeah, I mean, I think she does okay, but I'm not one of her like worst critics, because I know a lot of people think she's absolutely horrendous and sort of ruins the movie. But she's okay to me. But yeah, nothing amazing.
Yeah, it's just
talk more about her, because you probably got more. Like for me, she's just there.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know, again, it's the same thing. Yeah, that's the criticism. I think it's a shallow take on Laurie, really, as a character. I know she's written in that stereotype, that mould, by Moore to sort of fit the whole thematic heft of the Watchmen as a unit and as a very meta-knowing book. But yeah, I just felt a lot of the stuff, especially on Mars, I think a lot of the stuff fell flat for her. I don't really think she had the range for it. I think the special effects were poor as well when she's in that sort of
that is by far the
glass
worst.
Protection. Like... I actually think the worst is Karnak. When they get to Karnak, it looks like a small Thunderbirds model. Yeah,
they do use a lot of miniatures for that, and I do get what you mean, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, the glass prison in 4K, Tom. On a tell you what, on a 55-inch screen, that don't look good, mate. I tell you that one. But that 4K away.
You know, Moore was so right when he said something along the lines of like, you know, or everyone sort of said it's an impossible to film book, because it really does kind of revel in what comics can do. Like we get to see Dr. Manhattan go through time, i.e. go through panels, you know, later on that we don't get to go. All the ironic narration. How many times on the show did we use the word juxtapose?
Yeah, exactly.
Like you
don't quite capture it.
It's not a very juxtapositional film, though. It kind of is.
Yeah, like a lot of the panels in Watchmen are repeats of earlier panels, where you kind of see them mirrored and people sort of playing off things that have happened in the past. Whereas you can't really do that in the film unless you position everything perfectly. So they do miss quite a lot of those. Like panels sometimes perfectly cut with one another, like we said, how the Black Freighter beautifully ties into like a sign in the real world, and yeah, they don't really do that in the film.
No,
in the Black, sorry, go on.
No. For me, it was more definitely that is impossible. I completely agree with you. Yeah, but in terms of they can still have a certain eye for detail, like in headlines in the back, or you know, I think when Sally gets the Tijuana Bible.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah. That looks pretty good.
Yeah, she's I think she does quite a good performance as well.
Yeah.
The old lady makeup hasn't held up that well, but she does a good performance. She was recently in The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix.
Okay. Which
is a really, really good show. So yeah, it was nice actually seeing her pop up again, being like, that's where I remember her from.
But obviously the main character that we need to speak about is Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah.
Billy Crudup. who is in Rockstar, which is a movie that I really like with Mark Wahlberg, and he gives a really good performance as Dr. Manhattan. I love this.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I really liked him in this movie, and then everything he's done since, I've always kind of been like,
Sure.
it's a bit meh. Like, Alien Covenant was probably the last thing I watched him in.
Okay.
And he was just sort of very meh. But he does a fantastic job, Tom. Credit where it's due. He does a brilliant job with this. He plays it very monotone, but he completely nails it. And it is exactly what you sort of think Dr. Manhattan would be like when you read the comic. His body's all CGI as well, Tom. He didn't work out that hard, you know.
Yeah.
And the guy who actually did the body double died because he got hit by a train.
Damn.
Yeah. So, a bit of trivia there for you, Tom. I know the fans have come for the trivia, and that's why I get all the subscribers, because of info like that, Tom.
He looks fucking incredible in this film, though. Like, I'm really crazy about, you know, how they've shown him here. Like, and if you look closely at his skin, it's translucent. There's veins moving. It's like very nebulous. He has kind of his own, I don't know, his own skin's like this universe. You can often see stars in it and stuff. I don't know if that's in the Moore version, but I like that addition. Yeah,
it's really, really good looking. The HDR on it as well, like the glow that comes off him, it really like lights up the room. And I'll tell you what, the 4K cut is really nice looking, especially because there's quite a lot of grain in it. And I don't normally like films with lots of grain. I'm more about that digital, extra sharp picture. But just the way he glows off the screen, it's really, really nice. And when he uses his powers, it's really eye catching. So if you've got a 4K TV, get this disc, Tom. It's actually cheaper buying the Ultimate Cut on 4K than it is buying the normal Blu-ray. So get it, kids, and also subscribe.
What were your thoughts on Ozzy?
Shit, Tom.
Shit.
I actually wrote quite a bit. I thought it was the weakest part of the film, in all honesty. Really did not like the performance at all. I'm trying to look on my notes.
Matthew Good, he was called.
Is that who it is? What else has he done?
He was in The Crown.
Right. Yeah, he feels like that kind of actor.
Yeah.
Like, I just throughout the film, I just feel like a lot of detachment from him, and I don't feel like it's the material's fault. I feel like it's his performance. Like, it doesn't make him engaging for me.
Sure.
Like, every time he delivers a monologue, it's just kind of like, you see, Rorschach, I had to kill them all.
Yeah.
And like, even when he threatens the board, he's just saying like, no, you listen to me. It just doesn't feel threatening. And for me, it's the weakest aspect of the film. He just feels a bit too soft-spoken to really grab you. And, you know, honestly, the guy who comes out the lift to shoot those salesmen, he feels like a more threatening villain than Ozymandias to me. Just like the way, tell you what, Tom, the way they orchestrate that guy's entrance out the lift, with a symphony and everything, I was like, whoa, this guy's the real villain right here. I mean, they do kind of foreshadow that he is the villain quite well. Like when he says he's got a suicide capsule before even getting to him. So like, how would he know, Tom? But just this guy's performance, it wasn't for me.
And what about the music?
And it's probably why I hate Ozymandias. Like, whenever I read Doomsday Clock, just whenever I read Doomsday Clock and then like the comic,
and he's in the new HBO series as well. He's going to be played by Jeremy Irons.
So. Oh yeah. I think Jeremy Irons will nail it.
Like this guy's the bourgeois, Yeah, I think this guy's doing like a Jeremy Irons light. Yeah. Jeremy Irons deficiency. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure I read somewhere that it was originally Ozymandias was meant to be based on Jeremy Irons.
Wow.
I don't know, but I probably made that up. But don't unsubscribe, because keep subscribed for more trivia like that.
But the music in the film, obviously there's tons of high-profile songs. Probably the most I've ever encountered in a film of like genuine A-list. These songs are never on films. Happens more. Have you
seen Suicide Squad, Tom?
I haven't actually subjected myself.
That entire film's like a music video.
Wow.
but not for any reason. Not like they use the songs in here to paint the time.
Right.
They're just like, yeah, just bang a song in, just bang a song in.
But I mean, what do you think of the? Some people have said like it's very on the nose. Some of the musical cues.
Yeah, but I think it works. Yeah, it's like in Ready Player One. They have a bit where they're like, "You like disco music," and they play like Saturday Night Fever, "Staying Alive," and it's like, "Oh my god, I love this song. How did you know?" It's like, yeah, because it's probably the most disco music song of all time. It is sort of that, but I like it. I like the Flight of the Valkyries.
Yep.
Vietnam, I think that's brilliant. The Bob Dylan one, brilliant. Yeah, I've got no problem with the music in this, Tom. I'd even go so far as to say it's a good soundtrack.
Yeah, I enjoy it. It is slightly a bit too obvious, I suppose, but it works in the canvas that it paints, definitely.
I tell you what's a good bit of music, Tom. Dr. Manhattan's origin story.
That is
really good, that.
Yeah, that I think is really well dealt with as well.
I remember they used that music in the Grand Theft Auto 4 trailer. Brilliant. Brilliant piece.
Just talk about music, sorry. Our theme tune, which I took from the Watchmen OST, I think it's called The American Dream. It plays during this film. I don't know if you heard it. When comedian gets up Archie and starts firing into the crowd. You know, you're looking at The American Dream. It happened. It's from that, so shout out that scene.
Wow, brilliant scene. That's where the woman drops the F-bomb, doesn't she, Tom?
Now, watching it back, one of the worst scenes that stood out to me, that also stands out in the book as most memorable and horrifying at the same time, is comedian's rape.
Yeah, not everyone's favourite scene.
No.
For good reason. I think it works, though. It really does get you hating this guy. And one of the key characteristics of this film is it's very bloody and very, very gory. And just watching him like smash her head off the table, it's just it's a bit nasty to watch, Tom.
It is.
It lets you know this ain't the comic book movie for you, kids. Go back and watch your Rocket Raccoon and stuff like that.
Yeah. It kind of has the the more adaptation approach there, the undoing of the belt buckle, but it is completely vicious. It kind of goes away from the. I think there's a shot in the book that's like a kind of it's a reflection in Moloch's helmet or something like that. Yeah, I can't quite remember what that is, but they don't really go for that. But yeah, Hooded Justice comes in all the same, and yeah, I like that scene, but also hate that scene, and I completely agree. Yeah, it is uncomfortable watch. Let's talk Dr. Manhattan's origin scene then. Brilliant, right?
Yeah, perfect. I'm just up to the bit now in the film where he's going through Vietnam, just moving his hand, and these people's guts are getting ripped apart, and you're getting the feeling that this guy's a god. So it really piques your interest. And the Dr. Manhattan origin scene, literally, you could just cut that out and show it as like an example of amazing cinema. Especially in a comic book movie. I think it's probably one of the best comic book movie scenes. It's just, like I said, the score's fantastic. It also perfectly demonstrates Dr. Manhattan's view of time, his life before, his abilities, and it also gives like why he's so detached. Like, we forget that he's lost so much in his life that he probably would just be removed from emotion and not wanting to get tangled up in human affairs due to the fact that he's immortal, and anyone that he gets close to will eventually die. And the effects of just seeing him getting ripped apart and then building himself, the nervous system is just a fantastic piece of CGI. And to me, it's where the film really steps up a gear. And the Dr. Manhattan probably would have been quite difficult to put the film in anyone else's hands, but Snyder nails it. And I was talking about the HDR before, Tom. I'm trying to sell copies of this 4K disc, if you can hear. But the HDR in this scene, it's absolutely incredible when he comes into that canteen. It's phenomenal, Tom. Get yourself on Amazon through my affiliate link and buy that bloody 4K disc, lads.
Yeah, it's perfect, really, as an adaptation.
I don't really have an affiliate link, Tom. I'm not that famous yet.
It'll come.
They're bloody better, because I want some free stuff.
NSB exclusive news. This world that's slightly on the tilt, that's always portrayed in this way. I don't think we see any four-legged chicken or gay couple in the diner. So there's certain things they miss. The blue dick is there, for example. There's lots of things they hit. The action figures. I think, it will always be the most faithful adaptation. It's crazy the amount of delicate care that Snyder and co put into this. Yeah,
too much care to the point that it sort of derails like the fact that this is a movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's kind of like it's like character in scene and tableau to tableau, and it doesn't have a natural flow.
Yeah, exactly, because it's adapted directly from a book. Which it works fine in a comic because you've got chapters.
Yeah.
But here it's just like, I don't know if you should have put that in, Zach. You've literally put the guy sitting in a living room or a kitchen eating beans for 10 minutes on this Ultimate Cut, Snyder. Do you need to do that? Is that what we need? And then I'll turn around and go, yeah, you do need that, and you need to go through the affiliate link and buy it. So yeah, bit too much in. Bit unnatural. One of my criticisms of Batman v Superman is that they go absolutely ages without an action scene, and I think Watchmen is also guilty of that. It's just not paced the way that a film should be. In a book, it's fine pacing like that. Have as much drama in a book as you want. Don't have any action scenes in it. It's fine. Movie totally different. Need something. Need some high moments. Need some low moments. Dynamically, the movie doesn't quite have that. It's all a very consistent tone, except for a few pops, such as the opener, the Dr. Manhattan scene, Rorschach's little prison fight, and not the ending because it's quite downtrodden.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the ending's very good. I think Karnak, as I said before, looks quite insipid, really, from the outer rim. And I agree also what you were saying about Ozzy before. I don't think the performance is very good at all. It's certainly not the charisma and relish that I read in the book.
Yeah.
And shout out to Matthew Good, man, with Prince Margaret in The Crown. Good performance, good series. Someone out there needs to do a good fucking podcast on The Crown. Maybe one day, maybe a listener. But I think for me, ultimately, it's those final scenes. Those showdown scenes when the plot's revealed. The characters fighting, Manhattan intruding from the roof. They're just a little. They're not bad at all, but I don't know. There's something about them, a bit of a disconnect.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I think it's just a bit because it's all over the place. Basically, the final action scene is Rorschach and down getting the shit kicked out of themselves, and then Dr. Manhattan walking around slowly for a bit.
Yeah.
And then Rorschach walks away and gets killed. And that's sort of like the big action scene to end on. Like a film, to me, last half hour, wow, it's going to go off, Tom. Captain Marvel, I already know the last half hour of that film is going to go off. This doesn't really do that. So as a film, as a fan, I'm loving it. But as a film, I can see why people don't.
Yeah.
What do you think is the best ending? Is it the book or the film? I don't know why I did that like a little jingle. Maybe we should put that in the show.
Yeah,
what do you think?
I probably prefer the comic book one, I would say, ultimately.
Really? Even the big vagina alien?
Yeah, I find it so obtuse, and I liked its construction in this odd island with this philosopher and mind therapist and artist, and I just like the barbarity of that. But yeah, still, I like the Manhattan ending. I think it's a nice Hollywood ending. It's quite a smart ending.
Yeah. I think it's a better ending. Personally, I like the way that it ties the whole story together. Whereas the vagina alien ending, it just seems a bit left field for me.
Sure.
And it also seems like logically, I just couldn't see humans believing it for very long. and that's probably why Doomsday Clock, the smash hit Doomsday Clock, has been made. Whereas people were already living in fear of Dr. Manhattan in both the film and the comic book. So it makes a lot of sense to have that fear kind of capsize and unite the world against him. So it really, really does work for me. Whereas Vagina Alien, I don't know. Still don't know, but maybe that's because I saw the film first.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it is hard to tell. And I think ultimately the biggest part of me that enjoys this film is the part that loves fucking Watchmen to begin with, and I like seeing it on the big screen. And you know, I'm never going to know obviously what I would have thought, but from what I gather, that's the general consensus, and I can totally understand that as well. And you know, it's nice to go through and compare dialogue, as I say, and scenes, and you know, the eye for the attention is immaculate. And you mentioned the Ultimate Cut with the Black Freighter stuff, which I actually haven't seen. I think I've seen a little bit of the Black Freighter altogether.
Yeah.
But that is a fucking ballsy move, man. That is an artistic flourish there. Like, I love that he did that.
Yeah, it's really, really good. It doesn't always work perfectly, like the scene where Rorschach's... The first scene that it pops up is just after the scene that Rorschach's walking along and he does the Pagliacci speech.
Yeah.
The very famous speech. And then it just cuts to black, and then it's just some guy's eyes opening, and it's sort of the silhouette sort of fades, and you see that it's a guy like lying face down in water, and it's the Black Freighter guy, and he swims to the surface. He sees his mate, and this is different from the comic book. He has like a conversation with someone else who's shipwrecked, but they drown. And the sailor is voiced by Gerard Butler, and beautifully, like it's beautifully drawn. The sound's amazing, the animation, the color they use as well. It really did make me like the Black Freighter, but they do change it like a fair bit. Basically, he drags the guy's body to shore that he was having a conversation with, and his corpse, he sort of, in a sort of American Werewolf in London sort of way, he has conversations with that, and sort of gives his inner thoughts on the situation, and then it follows, story-wise, it follows the same route as the comic book does, with him landing on a river, deserted island, building a ship out of corpses, sailing across the sea, getting attacked by sharks, arriving back home, killing his family, killing that guy at the shore who was a con man. Tom, you remember the guy, and then swimming out to sea and joining the Black Freighter. I think in the book, did it not leave it ambiguous that we didn't know if the Black Freighter existed or not?
Sure.
But here it definitely exists. And it talks about how it does tie in quite nicely to the Ozymandias mentality, where he set out with the best intentions to return home and save his family from the Black Freighter, but he just went a bit mental along the way, Tom, and fucking killed everyone. Lovely guy, though, I'm sure, if you meet him in person. But they also had a lot of extra scenes with the comic book vendor that are really nice.
He's barely in it.
Yeah, he's so in the Ultimate Cut, he's probably in for about 10 minutes. Him and the comic book guy, they have lovely little lines, and they also have something that sets up the Hollis Mason murder. So basically, the first scene that you see them in, Hollis Mason's walking past, he buys a magazine, and then it kind of, the camera fades off him and goes towards the vendor and the guy reading the comic book. And then at another point, the comic book guy sitting down, and some top knots come up the stairs, and they're like, stop bullying him. And the news vendor guy sticks up for him. And then the next scene, I think the top knots come up again up the same way. And they're just about to bully him, but then they find out about Hollis Mason, so go and kill him. And then, fucking hell, this is like one of my End and Explain videos, Tom. They see the And then the news vendor guy's like, "Oh, just keep it," which is really nice. But the comic book guy's a bit of a dickhead, and he like throws it in his face that doesn't have an ending. So when the Dr. Manhattan explosion does happen at the end of the film, you have sort of had a build up towards this. And Malcolm also pops up towards the end to buy something off the news vendor, which is when the bomb goes off. Because if you remember in the film, Malcolm's there in the explosion and his suitcase opens and all that's sort of padded out a lot more.
Yeah, the ink blots scatter. Yeah.
So that's padded out a lot more. But yeah, it's really nice. If you like 3.5 hour long films, Tom, with completely pointless scenes in them.
Yeah, I mean, I love that it's there, and there probably could have been an extra longer one, I'm sure, as well. Like, must be an incredible amount of scenes that they fucking did for this film.
That's the thing. Like, Snyder literally filmed everything, pretty much. Like, I haven't got around to watching it yet, but there's also the Under the Hood documentary on the disc as well. And I think that's about half an hour long. So they just filmed, like, everything for this movie. Probably because Snyder's not got an original idea on his body. But, yeah, good. If you like Watchmen. If you don't, if you're just a casual fan, don't buy from the affiliate link, fans. I'm being honest with you. I feel like we've gotten to know each other through this podcast, so I'm going to be your friend now and say, do not buy that Ultimate Cut through my affiliate link.
So,
which doesn't exist.
So, final thoughts then, Deff, on the Watchmen adaptation?
I'm a bit annoyed, Tom, because I wrote 8 pages of notes.
Right.
And we've not talked about the awkward sex scene yet, Tom.
That's true.
Stuff like that.
That's true.
Do you want to talk about it, or do you not care?
Let's talk about that, yeah.
What do you think about it when they play Hallelujah over the top of them having sex?
Again, it's very quiet, garish for me. I remember as a youth finding it quite arousing, but now quite comical, really, and outrageous as well. I mean, there's a lot of.
Did you just say you found it arousing?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, Malin Ackerman.
Right.
Yeah,
I get you.
And you're not a fan of the scene?
No, it's just it goes on too long. There's no real subtlety to it. I don't think it's just very over the top. Yeah. The prison riot that follows it, that's quite good. Like a guy on fire, and that's not CGI, Tom. That's a little Deadpool 2 reference for the fans out there. And I really like when Rorschach sort of wipes out all of the prisoners. That guy gets his arms cut off.
Yeah, when his things are cut off at the wrist. Yeah. That was.
It's brilliant when he confronts Malcolm. And again, like Jackie Earle Haley completely nails this role, and just seeing him pull the mask down over his face. It's just great.
Yeah.
Brilliant movie, Tom.
It is.
I don't know how to score it. Should we do some scores? Do you want to talk about Rorschach dying? What an emotional gut punch.
Yeah.
I actually watched the director's cut with my wife a couple of years ago. I tricked her into doing it, Tom. And she was genuinely shocked that they killed Rorschach at the end.
Yeah.
She was gutted. Devastated, Tom.
Yeah,
Worst
he's
comic
smart.
book death ever.
Yeah,
he gets made into a nice little Rorschach painting.
He
does.
He does.
Which I don't think... Is it in the comic?
No, it's not. No, but I mean, what we don't see in that scene...
Wow, so Snyder is better than Moore officially.
Well, I personally saw it as a wink to Moore. It looked a little bit like a butterfly to me, which obviously is a hallmark of this whole act of Watchmen. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that rewatching this, I was as glued as I was. I've recently been watching the work of Pedro Almodovar, this Spanish director. He did Julieta, which is on Netflix, which you would hate, by the way. I would recommend it to you, but I don't think you would. I think maybe it would be, I don't know. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe we could talk about it. But people need to go check out.
Does it need an ending that need? Does it have an ending that needs explained?
It does actually.
That's all I think about these days.
A woman's daughter goes missing, and then she eventually sort of finds out where she is. So yeah.
Where is she, Tom? Spoil it for the listeners.
She's in this sort of religious commune in the hills of Andalusia. So yeah, but still, it was good to watch it, definitely, and to go back and also to sort of just look at Watchmen again. because I fucking loved, us going through, and people go back and check out the episodes that we did. I think so. We did 12 episodes, but a lot of them were like an hour and a half, an hour and 20. So probably like 15 hours of Watchmen.
Yeah, exactly, Tom.
So yeah,
we've pretty much ruined the Watchmen for ourselves, haven't we? Like, I know you're not happy about Doomsday Clock. We've sort of crushed all our love for it. But it was nice, this last little hurrah watching the film, because it is so faithful.
Yeah.
Does the director's cut have the guy at the end with the hot dog splashing on the t-shirt, Tom?
Yes, it does, yeah.
Right, I'm just, like, it's that accurate. It's pretty much bang on.
Yeah.
Like, I've been quite negative. In my notes, Tom, I was really positive, but I didn't get to do them all.
Sure.
I don't even think I did a quarter of my notes. But I was really positive when watching it. Like, it was difficult for me as a fan that knew what was going on to find fault with the film. Snyder, he does a fantastic job of putting together a film that many have said you couldn't film it. And he did this, Tom, by basically filming the entire thing. And I think that point really stands out in the ultimate cut, because everything's in there. If you can't be bothered to read the book, guys, just get that ultimate cut and you'll be sorted. And it is literally the book on film for 3 and a bit hours, but I enjoy it. It's not something that I regularly revisit, but it is one of my favorite comic book films of all time. It certainly is the most accurate.
Ever.
So,
ever.
Yeah. If you've only seen the theatrical cut, I probably recommend that you get the director's cut, to be honest. I think the theatrical cut's far too short, and it misses out a lot of the subtext and the little moments that really just highlight how accurate this is. And the ultimate cut's probably too long for most people. Like, I had to watch it in 2 sittings because it was starting to wear. I remember being 2 hours in, and I think it was like Laurie and Dan had just decided they hadn't even become superheroes yet.
Wow.
And that's how long the film is. And it's a bit long for most people. No, I do enjoy it, but it's only for the most hardcore fans of the film who want the little ins and outs. They want to see the Black Freighter, Tom. They want to see the comic book guy. Most people, they probably don't give a shit. They're probably like, who the hell is that character? Why is he relevant, Tom? And I'll tell you why he's relevant, because he sits there and reads that book that has that thing in that originally was deemed not good enough to be in the film. So, there.
It worked on a different level entirely for us because of this show and because of our fandom. We were just seeing it through that paradigm. And it's similar to Bodied, which I know you'll be familiar with. Which is a big film.
Yet, Tom.
Yeah, it's a big film at the moment about battle rap, which me and Def have covered extensively as well in the past. And directed by the guy who did the Toxic music video and written by Kid Twist, blah, blah. So, very, very cool movie. But yeah, there's loads of cameos in that as well. So watching it...
Was it Toxic by Britney Spears?
Toxic by Britney Spears, yeah.
Great music video.
Great music video.
I want to watch it now.
Right? Yeah. Crazy.
Because the taste of your lips, I'm on it round. Come on.
For some people, that was their Laurie and Dan, that was the scene that...
yeah.
But,
that was after Tattoo, though, that wasn't it?
Oh, wow.
What a music video. She did. I can't remember what they were, though.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, there's so much in this fucking film. There's so much material that they recorded. Like, the Nixon stuff, I think is dealt with well. He's quite a recurrent character. And
do you think... I don't like the stupid over the top.
It's too sort of clownish, yeah.
Yeah, just the nose, like a lot of films have their Nixon in.
Nixon and Elvis happened recently. I didn't actually watch that.
Yeah, it's too over, the nose is just too over the top. The best one I've probably seen in recent memory is Days of Future Past. But yeah, this one, it was a bit shit, I thought, Tom. In a film that's quite grounded for the most part, it just seemed very strange.
Yeah, there were lots of little things as well. Like there was a moment on a chat show I forget who was on it now, but basically they were speaking to a host that looked like Dick Cavett, who was very much a sort of Jimmy Kimmel, Jay Leno of his day. So there were lots of little genuflections back to nostalgia throughout, and it is an incredibly faithful adaptation. That's kind of the F word now. You say juxtaposition, but no, it's accurate, faithful, but it really is. The level of empiricism, verisimilitude back to Messrs, Gibbons and Moore is quite outstanding, really. And I love the fact that they did this, and regardless of what Sir Lindelof's upcoming miniseries on HBO is like, I don't think, even if it is going to do homages, which it probably will do in some sort of way, it will get close to a lot of these. A lot of these were absolute artistic bullseyes, I think, in terms of depiction, and I repeatedly applaud the film for that. But as a piece of sort of classic film literature, to me, it's not something that I'm necessarily going to have on all the time, but it was fun to go back, and I got to say it's very impressive.
Yeah, definitely. Like, size and scope of it, really good. It still holds up. Looks fantastic. Acting, on the most part, really good. Couple of duds in there, Tom. Mainly the villain, which is obviously one of the most important parts of the film. A bit of extra care on the cat. It's weird because Snyder worked with Jeremy Irons as well. On Batman v Superman and that. Yeah. And he could have got him for this, Tom. I'm sure he would have done it. This was, he didn't work that much after Die Hard 3. I don't think, anyway. Did he not do Dungeons and Dragons?
He may have done. I think he was in
and that kind of killed it. Yeah. So Snyder probably could have got him. But yeah. What version would you recommend watching?
Well, it's just the director's cut, really, that I'm most familiar with.
I just think the theatrical cut's lacking too much.
What is
missing? The ultimate cut is, there's so many little things missing. Yeah. There's literally hundreds and hundreds of little things missing. The director's cuts in general are pretty much, bar one film that I can think of, I prefer to the theatrical cut. The film that I don't prefer is Leon, because there's like a scene in that where they imply that he's a paedophile. Okay. And I'm like, well, don't imply the lead man is a paedophile.
Really? I mean, I've seen that film a few times, but I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's not a good director's cut. But other than that,
Luc Besson!
Yeah, we're talking Aliens, we're talking Terminator 2, we're talking everything, Batman v Superman. I'm just trying to think of all... basically, the amount of films that I bought on Blu-ray when they've come out at the cinema, and then 6 months later they've been like, we're bringing out the extended cut. I've been, oh, what? And then bought it, and it's much better. Days of Future Past, the extended cut's way better than the theatrical one. It just paints a bigger picture, Tom. So, yeah, director's cut all the way. Unless there's the ultimate cut available on Amazon. Link in the description.
What's obviously outside of this as well, we both do channels, go support BRR, Alpha Metallica, go support Watching the Watchmen, of course, as well. Def, how's the channel doing, man? You're like a fucking viral superstar over here or some shit.
I got an email today, Tom, from YouTube saying congratulations on 10,000 subscribers.
Wow.
Which I didn't think I'd get, but it's not amazing. I'm not like PewDiePie yet, but
good figure.
I've doubled. I listened to our last episode last night, and I've doubled my subscribers since then. So selling out big time here, guys, and just want to thank you for doing it. I've also, as a thank you, Tom, though, to the fans, I've actually done a video. I'm giving away a free copy of Hereditary. All you have to do is go on the video, in the comments, write your top 5 films of 2018. And I'm going to pick a winner. You probably got a good chance of winning because only 3 people have entered so far. Right. So you've definitely got a chance there, Tom. You get yourself on there, you probably win.
I'm there, bro. Multiple accounts right now.
So I'll just give something back. But it's been great, and I really appreciate everyone who keeps subscribing, because every day when I wake up, like this morning, Tom, I thought I'm going to wake up and have just a nice relaxing morning where I don't have to do any videos because I know that nothing's out. Anyway, they dropped the fucking Captain Marvel trailer, Tom. So I do that at 8 o'clock this morning before I started work. And it wasn't fun. So what about your stuff, Tom?
It's going good, man. It's going good. I mean, it's tough really, because obviously the subject I cover is far more niche. Not to compare, but it's like I can't really go viral over top 10 King of the Dot fails or some shit. But in terms of content, we're doing
smashing it.
We're doing live mastermind and stuff like that. So we're doing some cool stuff out there. But
I enjoy listening to it.
Thank you, man. No, seriously though, man. Like, it is crazy to see how you've grown, bro. It's very, very cool. And this will be on the channel as well. So shout out to everyone.
This is gonna be ending the streak. All the people who subscribed since the last episode, all 5,000 of them are going to be like, "What the fuck is this?" So I'm glad I can disappoint them all.
And
shout out to Eric Ferguson.
Oh yeah, of course, man. Always.
For being our faithful listener. I'm sure we've got loads of comments on the last. Should we read out some comments? Have you got somewhere to go, Tom?
If you've got any...
Have you got somewhere to go?
No, man.
I've got to look for the video. You stall, Tom. You stall for the listeners. I know it's not good having silence on.
No. So yeah,
podcast.
Def is going to go and find that out, and everyone needs to go back on the channel as well and check out all the other episodes that we've done, and all the times that Def has obviously been on Battle Rap Resume as well. We are going to get Def on Battle Rap Resume again really soon, to basically do Deffinition sort of fixes UK battle rap.
Right, I found it, Tom.
All right.
So you can stop talking about stuff. Right.
I haven't actually checked these, so okay.
Cyan Blue, this is on Doomsday Clock, issue 7, blind spot review and analysis. Got to get those keywords in that title, Tom. Great video. I agree on the series. I was hyped a lot before it came out, and it didn't deliver. One of the things I dislike about the story from Jeff Johns is that it's not a standalone story like Watchmen. Characters like Saturn Girl, Johnny Thunder will be hard to understand, or their importance if you're not familiar with them from the comics. This story ties into other stories from Rebirth, and as a standalone, the story will be hard to understand, like things like certain characters or why characters are important. And I thought this story was basically, he thinks that it's quite a long comment. He thinks it should be standalone. What do you think, Tom? Cyan Blue.
Yeah, I think unfortunately it takes place within the DC universe. It is a DC universe crossover event, so it is going to have to inherit some of those tropes, which personally I hate. Like, I'm a bit of a stickler really. I'll just read sort of collected, hermetically sealed image editions. I don't really like my crossover and dear Excelsior, check out issue 66, whatever. Like, I don't really appreciate that, and that is a stumbling block that we came across when we've done Doomsday Clock so far. And
did you just do a Stan Lee joke, Tom? Because it's too fucking soon if you did. I was genuinely devastated when that guy died.
Of course, man.
My wife, she reads the Daily Mail, Tom.
Yeah.
Don't let anyone know that, because it's fucking horrendous paper. But anyway, she gets notifications on her phone, and she was just sat there and she went, Stanley's died, and my first words were, fuck off. Genuinely, I'm not even lying. I just went, fuck off. What? I was devastated. Anyway, continue. Sorry for
no, definitely R.I.P. Stan Lee, of course. We hadn't discussed this. Absolutely incredible legend. And I don't know if you listened to Kevin Smith, Fat Man Beyond.
Great podcast.
Yeah, amazing podcast. Loads of times we spoke about Mark Bernardine as well on this show, actually, in the past, because he is fire at breaking down story. Got so much respect for that guy. But yeah, they did like
he should be doing my YouTube channel, really, shouldn't he?
He's doing bigger things, man. I mean, it's one thing to do a YouTube. Well, it's one thing to do a YouTube channel.
I got an email a day from YouTube about 10,000 subscribers. Tom, what do you mean? There's bigger?
Get back to me when you write a Netflix series, homie.
Yeah. Oh, he's a great guy.
No, that any more comments, man?
Sorry for derailing you there, Tom. You were going to say something nice about the guy. I'll not interrupt you next time, because I feel like I'm overtaking you.
It's all good.
Eric Punt, 1 month ago. Thanks again. It's a pleasure to listen to you. The only reason to buy Doomsday Clock is to listen to your program. Brilliant. Recommend. We should put that on.
Is
on
that a
the
real
CD.
comment? That's such a good comment.
Yeah, it's the only reason to buy it. Besides, I think Batman in Doomsday Clock has Alzheimer's. Poor man. Funny that Dr. Manhattan says at the end, "I do not see tomorrow." Would it be about Doomsday Clock? Greetings from Amsterdam. Kevin Lynch, loved your reviews of Watchmen. Haven't read any of Doomsday Clock, but get some good laughs out of listening to you guys talk about it. I bet he loves those Alan Moore impressions, Tom. He's my only Patreon, Tom. Kevin Lynch, shout him out. He says, I see I'm still your only Patreon. What the hell's going on? Well, I tell you what, Kevin, if you're still a Patreon, cancel that, because I've not seen any money from that, and I emailed them saying, what the fuck is going on? I know this guy's donating. Where's this money going? And they've not replied.
Wow.
So fuck that lad.
And I actually went on...
don't fuck that lad. Fuck Patreon.
Fuck
Thanks
Patreon.
For that lad.
Fuck
I'm just
Patreon.
so used to saying fuck that lad.
Yeah, that was a nice comment, definitely. I actually went on to the...
I think I'm not hitting the threshold yet for them to give me money.
I checked on the email, actually, and we did get one from Eric quite a few months ago. I don't know if you read it.
I've just checked, and I've got 2 Patreons.
Oh, there we go.
I've got Johanna Radechovsky, so shout out to them as well.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like they're pledging anything, it just looks like they're watching the... So
we're watching the Watchmen.
Johanna.
They're watching the Patreon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but...
well, Patreon's doing alright though, isn't it, Tom? Pimp it.
It's okay, you know.
Tell you what, guys, if you want to donate to the Patreon, bloody go to Tom's Patreon. I'm doing all right for money off ads and selling my souls, so give that lad your money, you bastard.
So I appreciate that, man. We will put all the links down below for the film and for the affiliate link and for everything else. But yeah, Eric got in touch actually on the email. He says, hello. Yeah. I think we read this one. I don't think we did actually. I think this came a little later. Hello. In case you didn't have the Watchmen RPG module, I have attached it. So we'd spoken about this before, Dev. So this is the only thing after Watchmen that Alan Moore officially was like part of in terms of
you were
the
wanting
brand.
to review it yourself, weren't you?
I think we still probably should. And because Eric's given us, we could just read it and just discuss it. That would be
brilliant.
That would be quite cool. So he said, I used to have this module and only recently gave it away. In the 1980s, my group of friends, we played Dungeons & Dragons-like games, but not actually D&D because we hated the rules. It turns out my neighbour was an artist on many of the Mayfair models, but not this one. One of the systems we explored was a DC one. Ultimately, the rules and game mechanics were just too unwieldy. To my surprise, the module is considered Alan Moore canon. Fuck me. I think I learned that from you. I wish I hadn't given it away, but I gave it to a friend. It has a good home. And then he talks about us mentioning John Byrne. Do you remember who that was?
I don't, Tom.
No, it looks like John Byrne was an artist that you mentioned. Says, I was surprised that you were both not familiar with John Byrne.
It was probably you who mentioned him.
Yeah, he was a very big name in the 1980s. Byrne worked with Chris Claremont on the classic X-Men Dark Phoenix saga. Okay, cool. His work has not aged well. He has some controversial views, I've read.
Wow.
In the 1980s, it was very difficult to learn about an artist compared to now, except Alan Moore. He let you know exactly how he felt. I think Neil Gaiman has the same way. Anyway, here's a link to an overview of John Byrne's early work. He says, anyway, whatever you cover in your next podcast, wish you the best, Eric.
Yeah, brilliant.
Thank you, Eric,
are we doing Doomsday Clock, Tom?
I think I sort of threw a bit of a hissy fit, really, and I said
didn't you?
I said that I wasn't going to do it. I just couldn't really be bothered to do it, but I think...
The thing is, Tom, when you're in these podcasts, it's a right laugh, innit? It's a good laugh. As soon as you hang up, I fucking hate doing them. I hate that bastard. I wish he'd stop bugging me with these. Sorry, I hope you don't listen back to this and think I can't believe you just said that. But yeah, Doomsday Clock, man, the neater. So I'm looking more forward to reading before Watchmen. And that'll tide well over, and then you know exactly what's going to happen, Tom, the TV show. Just as we're getting out, the TV show's going to drop. And it'll be like the Hunger Games all over again.
Oh my god! I mean, that would be brief, I guess. That would be like another 12 weeks, or whatever. But yeah, that is still quite a fucking a lot.
I started doing the Walking Dead recaps on Monday morning. Seemed like a good idea at the time when I first started doing it. But by the second one, I was like, bloody hell! I'm gonna have to wake up every morning at 5 o'clock. watch The Walking Dead and then do a video about it every week. So I tell you what, these TV recaps, Tom, they're not all you think.
No, they scare me. Those sort of things. I already do a fucking Metallica podcast. It's like week by week. I'm like, obviously I love doing it, but it's like, it is a commitment, like you say, and you are necessitated by it, and you can sort of begrudge it to a certain extent. But it is fun at the end of the day. So,
who I feel really sorry for, Tom? That other Watchmen podcast that are doing it page by page. No. Wow, that's dedication.
That is like 300 pages. How many pages is that?
I bet they're not even out the first issue yet, Tom. I haven't listened to it because I'm like, fuck those guys.
12 times 30, like that is a crazy, like something like that, like unbelievable. I remember.
If only there was a way to work out that sub, Tom.
I think that's about right, isn't it? I think that's about right.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I remember, I think we shared this actually once or something like that. But it was like an image that showed you all the issues of Watchmen in order as like a huge thing, and you could see kind of what happened on each page. And fuck me, that is. I mean, huge respect to those guys. I need to listen to that actually. When that first came out, I was a bit like, oh fuck, I was a bit pissed off. I was like, we do a Watchmen podcast, but no, big respect to those guys for doing that. Definitely. And
there's a lot of people who do end and explain videos, Tom, now, and I fucking hate them all, but I also really respect them. Yeah. And now that we're through this, I'm kind of like, oh, you know what? I do kind of respect those guys. Maybe not the best idea going through it page by page, but hats off to them.
Yeah. So
you've done better than I've done.
So thanks as always, guys. Appreciate you listening. Let us know.
Do you think on their podcast they're sitting slagging us off, Tom?
No, I don't think we're on anyone's radar. We get so little downloads. It makes me quite annoyed actually. It's just like, because I think the show is really good, and it's like, I don't know why, but we do.
It's easily the best thing on my channel.
Which
isn't saying much.
No. But, so if you enjoy the show, shout out to a friend or something like that. Help us out here. But still, it's very cool to go back through this, man. So, any closing thoughts, bro?
Well, people are going to look at this, the length of this episode, and be like, oh, yes, they're talking about Watchmen, the movie, for an hour and 20 minutes, and I can't wait to listen to it. Little do they know, we'll talk about the movie for about half an hour, and then just sort of ramble on about shit. So, guys, if you've stayed this long in the podcast, thank you for listening to the end of this. Prove that you've done it by writing. I don't know what should they write in the comments, Tom. It's a good night from me.
It's a good night from John Higgins.